Imagine you're scrolling through social media and see that a video of you losing your temper at a restaurant has gone viral. The 30-second clip doesn't show the hour of terrible service or that you just received devastating news about a family member. It just shows you at your absolute worst moment, with thousands of strangers calling you entitled, demanding you to be fired, and sharing your employer's contact information. Within hours, your life has changed. Your friends stop texting back. You're afraid to leave your apartment because someone might recognize you. You feel completely alone, wondering if your life will ever be normal again. Then, as you arrive home one day, your neighbor, someone you've only exchanged polite hellos with, sees you and says, "Listen, I saw what happened. That must be really hard. Want to talk about it?" And for the first time in days, you're not being judged or analyzed, just heard. We live in a culture that is very quick to condemn and slow to offer grace. But what if there's more to life than living in fear of judgment? Today on More to Life, we'll discover how creating safe places transforms both the people we help and ourselves. We live in an age of permanent records. Every mistake, every bad moment, every poor decision can be screen recorded, shared, and stored forever. Cancel culture has made us all hyper aware that one wrong move could destroy our reputation, career, or even relationships. This constant fear of judgment has created something psychologists call impression management anxiety. We're so worried about how others perceive us that we've stopped being authentic. We curate our social media posts, rehearse even casual conversations, and hide our struggles because we're terrified of being seen as imperfect. The result is that most people are walking around feeling completely alone with their problems. And in our polite Canadian culture, this problem seems to be compounded by the fact that we've mastered the art of surface level conversations while keeping our real struggles private. We say, "Oh, I'm fine," when we're really falling apart. And we rarely dig deeper when others give us the same response. We've created a society where everyone is expected to have it together, which means no one feels safe admitting that they don't. This extends beyond personal relationships into our workplaces, into our communities, and even into our families. We've become experts in spotting each other's failures, but terrible at creating environments where people can feel free and to heal from those failures. Research from Ontario shows that stigma associated with mental health challenges remains a major barrier to seeking help, with young people delaying first contact with services due to shame, negative stereotypes, and fear of being labeled. But the same research reveals that people who have access to even one non-judgmental relationship recover faster and make more sustainable changes. The tragedy is that most of us want to help others, but we don't know how to create genuine safety. We offer advice when what people really need is just to be accepted and to feel acceptance. We try to fix when people need to just really be heard. We impose our timelines for healing when people, all they really need is just a space to process what's happening. What if the problem isn't that people don't want to change, but that they don't have a safe space to do the hard work of transformation? What if the reason so many people stay stuck in destructive patterns is because they're too afraid of judgment to seek help? About 2,000 years ago, a teacher named Jesus encountered a woman in the most unsafe situation imaginable. She was caught red-handed, surrounded by people ready to execute her for her mistakes. But instead of adding to her shame, Jesus created something revolutionary, a safe place where transformation could begin. His approach challenges everything we believe about judgment, grace, and how real change happens in human hearts. Jesus is teaching in the temple courts in Jerusalem. It's early morning and the crowds have gathered to hear him speak. Suddenly, John chapter 8 verse 3 and 4 tells us, the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. They put her in front of the crowd. "Teacher," they said to Jesus, "this woman was caught in the act of adultery." Now picture this moment. This woman has been pulled from the most vulnerable, shameful situation imaginable and paraded in front of a crowd. She's standing there, probably barely clothed, terrified, and completely exposed. Not just physically, but emotionally. Everyone knows exactly what she's done. There's no hiding it, no explaining it away. No damage control is possible at this point. The religious leaders continue. "The law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say?" They were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him. Verses 5 and 6. This wasn't really about the woman at all. She was just a pawn in their scheme to discredit Jesus. If Jesus said, "Don't stone her," they could accuse him of disregarding Moses' law. If he said, "Stone her," they could point out that he wasn't showing the compassion he always preached about. Either way, they thought they had him trapped. Notice what the woman is experiencing while all this is going on. She's surrounded by people who see her as nothing more than her worst moment. She's become the object of public shame and political manipulation. And in that moment, she had no advocates, no one to defend her, no safe place. Then Jesus does something that changes everything. Verse 6 says, "But Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger." Why did Jesus write in the dust? What did he write? The text doesn't actually tell us what he wrote, but his actions speak volumes. While everyone else is staring at this woman, ready to condemn her, Jesus looks away. He gives her a moment of dignity in the midst of her humiliation. After a moment, verse 7 tells us, they kept demanding an answer, so he stood up again and said, "All right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone." With one sentence, Jesus completely reframes the situation. He doesn't deny that what the woman did was wrong. He doesn't minimize the seriousness of adultery, but he shifts the focus from her failures to everyone else's failures. Suddenly, every person in that crowd has to confront their own need for grace. Verse 9 says, "When the accusers heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman." One by one, her accusers leave. Maybe they remembered their own secrets, their own failures, their own need for forgiveness. The crowd that had gathered to witness her destruction slowly disappears until she's alone with the one person who had the authority to condemn her. Then comes the most beautiful part of the story. Verses 10 and 11 says, "Then Jesus stood up again and said to the woman, 'Where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you? No, Lord, she said. And Jesus said, neither do I. Go and sin no more. Jesus asks her where her accusers went, but this isn't a rhetorical question. He's helping her process what just happened. He's making sure she understands that the shame and condemnation she expected didn't come. Then he offers her something she never could have imagined: forgiveness and a fresh start. This story reveals 3 principles about creating safe places where transformation can happen. Number 1, safe spaces disrupt cycles of shame. The religious leaders had created a perfect shame storm. They had the law, the crowd, the evidence, and the moral authority to destroy this woman. But Jesus completely disrupted their system of condemnation. As Brené Brown explains, shame corrodes the very part of us that believes we are capable of change. When people are drowning in shame, they can't even access the emotional resources needed for genuine transformation. They're too busy defending themselves or hiding to do the hard work of growth. And Jesus understood this. And so instead of piling on more shame on this woman, he absorbed it. He took the focus off her failures and redirected it toward everyone else's need for grace. This created emotional space for her to just breathe for a second, to think, to maybe even hope. In our Canadian context, we see this shame cycle everywhere. Someone makes a mistake at work, and instead of creating space for forgiveness and learning, we pile on the criticism. A friend goes through a divorce, and instead of offering support, we whisper about what they did wrong. A family member struggles with addiction, and instead of creating safety for recovery, we focus on blame and disappointment. But safe spaces work differently. They acknowledge that everyone struggles, everyone fails, and everyone needs grace. When you create an environment where perfection isn't expected, people can finally relax. People can finally be honest about their struggles. And here's point number 2. Safe spaces offer acceptance before transformation. Notice the order of Jesus' response. He didn't say, go and sin no more, and then I won't condemn you. He offered complete acceptance first. He says, neither do I condemn you. Only after establishing safety did he offer direction. Go and sin no more. This challenges us because if we're honest, most of the time we want to see evidence of change before we offer acceptance or forgiveness. We think that withholding it will motivate people to get their lives together, back on track. But Jesus demonstrates the opposite, that acceptance creates the foundation for authentic change. As author and pastor Timothy Keller puts it, I love this quote. He says, we are more sinful and flawed in ourselves than we ever dared believe. Yet at the very same time, we are more loved and accepted in Jesus Christ than we ever dared hope. This paradox of being fully known and fully loved creates the emotional safety needed for real transformation. Think about the relationships in your own life where you've experienced the most growth. They were probably with people who accepted you before you changed, not after. When you feel safe enough to be vulnerable about your struggles, you can finally address them honestly. This woman left that encounter not afraid of more punishment, but experiencing unconditional love. That love gave her the strength and the motivation to live differently. And finally, point number 3, safe spaces lead to transformation, not enabling. You know, it's true. Some people worry that offering unconditional acceptance will enable destructive behavior. If we don't hold people accountable, won't they just keep making the same mistakes over and over again? But Jesus' approach shows us the difference between enabling and empowering. He didn't minimize her actions or pretend they didn't matter. His words, "Go and sin no more," clearly indicate that her behavior needed to change. But he offered that challenge from a position of love and acceptance rather than condemnation. Romans chapter 2 verse 4 tells us that God's kindness is intended to turn you from your sin. It's not shame that motivates lasting change. It's experiencing grace we don't deserve that transforms how we want to live. When you create a safe space for your friend, your spouse, your colleague, your kids, you're not lowering your standards or avoiding difficult conversations. You're simply creating conditions where they feel secure enough to face hard truths about themselves and strong enough to do the difficult work of change. Some scholars suggest that this woman's encounter with Jesus transformed not just her behavior, but her entire life. Some traditions identify her as Mary Magdalene, who became one of Jesus' most devoted followers and was present at his crucifixion when most of his male disciples had fled. Others suggest that what Jesus wrote in the sand were actually the specific sins of the people in that crowd. Whatever the case, the point is this: the safest space for relationships and communities to grow is found in Jesus himself. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 17 promises, "Anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone, a new life has begun." This means that no matter what you've done, no matter how public your failures are, no matter how much shame you're carrying, there's a space, there's a specific place where you can find complete acceptance and the power to start over. Jesus doesn't minimize our mistakes, but he doesn't define you by them either. He offers something better than a clean slate. He offers a new identity. Whether you're someone who needs a safe place to heal or someone who wants to create safe places for others, this story shows us that transformation happens not through shame and condemnation, but through acceptance and unconditional love.
In life's storms, we need a beacon. HopeStudy.ca shines Bible truth like Peggy's Cove Lighthouse, steady, bright, and free. From the Rockies to the Maritimes, Canadians are finding hope online. Will you visit HopeStudy.ca and let grace guide you home?
What practical lessons can we learn from this encounter that happened so long ago? Let me offer 3 practical questions that can help you both find the safety you need and become a safe person for others. Here's number 1. Where in your life do you most need a safe space right now? And what's preventing you from seeking it? The woman in our story was dragged into the open against her will, but many of us are carrying shame in secret. We're afraid, what if people really knew our struggles, our marriage problems, our financial stress, our doubts, our addictions, our failures? They would reject us just like that crowd was ready to reject her. And maybe you're afraid your employer will see you as weak. Perhaps you're struggling in your marriage, but worried your family will take sides. You might be questioning your faith journey, but scared your church community will judge you. Or you could be battling an addiction, but convinced no one would understand. Here's what's important to understand. Shame thrives in secrecy, and sometimes the path to healing isn't avoiding vulnerability, but finding the right person to be vulnerable with. Question number 2. What's one specific change you could make this week to help create a safe space for someone who needs it? This question requires honest self-reflection because most of us don't realize when we're creating unsafe environments. The religious leaders in this story probably thought they were upholding moral standards and helping society. They didn't see themselves as cruel or judgmental. And we do this too sometimes. Think about your most recent interactions. Sometimes we offer advice when people need acceptance, don't we? We say things like, I'm just being honest, when we're actually being harsh. We smile and say, oh, that's tough, while internally cataloging someone's poor choices. Jesus asked the woman where her accusers went before offering her direction. He made sure she felt safe before challenging her to change. How could you apply this principle? One practical change could be adopting what counselors call the 24-hour rule, waiting a full day before responding to news about someone's struggles. This gives you time to move from judgment to compassion and respond with grace rather than just reaction. Here's question number 3. How might exploring a relationship with Jesus provide the ultimate safe place you're searching for? Many people are looking for unconditional acceptance, but trying to earn it through performance. They think if they could just be good enough, if they could just be successful enough or helpful enough, they'll finally feel secure. But that's exhausting and ultimately impossible because humans are imperfect and our acceptance will always be conditional. Jesus offers something different, complete acceptance based on His love, not your performance. Romans chapter 8 verse 1 says, "So now there is no condemnation for those who belong to Christ Jesus." Now this doesn't mean your choices don't matter, but it means your worth isn't determined by your mistakes. When you bring your failures to Jesus, He doesn't just forgive them, He completely removes them and gives you the power to become a new person. The shame, the guilt, the fear of being found out, all of it can be replaced with the security of being fully known and fully loved. Getting to know Jesus might start with simply saying, Jesus, I need the kind of safe place you offered that woman. I'm tired of hiding and pretending. Help me understand what it means to be accepted by you. Would you like to do that today? If you'd like to, reach out to me on social media. Send me a private message. I'll send you information about your next steps in discovering this life-changing relationship, and I want to celebrate with you. What if the safe space you've been searching for isn't ultimately found in a person or in a community, but in the one who created safety for a shamed woman 2,000 years ago and is still offering that same grace to you today?
Hope Channel Canada is more than a TV channel. It's a movement of hope, health, and salvation. Lives are being changed each day through our programs. You can become an agent of hope in Canada, whether through prayer, volunteering, or a donation. Your actions create ripples of change. Like threads woven into a tapestry, your small contribution helps to build something beautiful. So visit agentsofhope.ca or call 1-855-4-HOPE-TV to get involved. Thank you for your support.
When I was in college, our dean launched a new mentoring program, pairing older students with younger ones who were struggling academically. I was matched with someone who was barely passing their courses and seemed completely overwhelmed by university life. I'll be honest, I didn't have any special training or profound wisdom to offer. I just started meeting with them regularly, asking about their week, listening to their struggles with coursework, and adjusting to being away from home. I showed genuine interest in their story, their background, and their dreams. I didn't try to fix everything or give brilliant advice. I mostly just listened. Over the following months, something shifted. Their grades began to improve quite dramatically. They became more engaged in campus life. They found their confidence. By graduation, they had completely turned their academic career around. At the graduation celebration, I went up to them and I asked what made the difference. Their answer surprised me. They said, "It wasn't anything profound you said or did. They said it was simply having a safe space, someone who listened to me and helped me feel important. For the first time since starting university, I didn't feel alone with my struggles. I realized I had created exactly what Jesus offered the woman caught in adultery, simply a safe place where transformation could begin. I didn't minimize their challenges or offer quick solutions. I just simply provided what they needed most: acceptance and genuine interest in their journey. Today, we've discovered 3 principles about creating safe places from Jesus' approach. First, we learned that safe places disrupt cycles of shame and accusation. Instead of adding to condemnation, Jesus absorbed it and redirected the focus to everyone's need for grace. Real change happens when people feel emotionally safe, not when they're drowning in shame. Second, we saw that safe places offer acceptance before transformation. Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you," before challenging her to go and sin no more. Unconditional acceptance creates the foundation where authentic change can grow. Third, we discovered that safe places lead to transformation, not enabling. Jesus didn't minimize her actions, but he offered direction from a position of love rather than condemnation. What if the person you encounter today who seems to have it all together is actually drowning in shame? What if your willingness to offer acceptance instead of advice could be exactly what they need to find hope again? And perhaps the most important safe place you could discover is found in Jesus himself. He doesn't just teach us how to create safe places for others. He offers to be our ultimate safe place. Whether you're carrying shame from past mistakes or feel trapped by current struggles, Jesus offers you what that woman experienced: complete forgiveness and the power to start fresh. It's not about being perfect first or earning your way to acceptance. It's about discovering that you're fully known and fully loved exactly as you are. And so today, my challenge to you is this: stop waiting for people to prove they deserve grace before you offer it. Look for someone who needs safety more than solutions and acceptance more than advice. Because there's more to life than living in fear of judgment of others. There's the freedom that comes from creating and finding safe spaces where real transformation can begin.